Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up and August TBR. This month I read 7 books, which it doesn't feel like a lot of books for me for some reason, even though that's my kind of average amount. I just haven't been reading a lot the past week or so, so I'm a little let down with the amount of books I read, but I'm going to go through them all anyways because they were pretty good. I still enjoyed, I think, everything I read this month, so no issues there, but yeah. Let's just get into it. So the first 2 books I read this month were actually the last 2 books in a trilogy that I've technically been reading since 7th grade. I read the first 2 books in 7th grade, never picked up the 3rd book, and recently I got the 3rd book off Book Outlet. So I decided to kind of reread the books, and I had reread the first one back in like August or something like that, so it was time to reread the second one and finish up the series. So that being said, I read Seeing Red and Archenemy by Frank Bador. These are the last 2 books to the Looking Glass Wars trilogy, and they were really good. They're very whimsical and magical. Basically, these books are an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and I've never read Alice in Wonderland, but I'm familiar with the Disney story of it, so I really liked it. I thought it was such an interesting take on Alice in Wonderland, and I loved the world. There were definitely parts that I kind of wished were more developed, but they're kind of small books, and I think they're YA, but they read like a middle grade book. They're not very hard to read. I had some issues, but overall they were just a really fun read. The next book I read was definitely a heartbreaker, and that was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Guys, I finally read this book. It's been in my sights for so long now. I know that everyone loves this book, and I am included in that. So in this book, you follow 2 main characters. One is a young blind French girl, and the other one is a young German man who ends up enlisting in the military there, and you follow their life as they, grow up from children up until their late teens. And you follow their life throughout the war, kind of what happens to them and how they feel about the things that are going on around them in their society and elsewhere. It's such a heartbreaking story. I personally love historical fiction books, especially World War II books. I love sad books. I like crying to books, which doesn't happen very often. And this book definitely made me tear up. I was sitting on my bed, like, with my sister next to me, and she was just judging me because, like, tears were rolling down my face. It was ridiculous. If you guys haven't read this book yet and you like historical fiction, World War II setting, it's such a good book. The character development was spot on, and it really just it just got to me, It just pulled all my heartstrings in the right way. Okay, so the next book I read was also a heartbreaking but heartwarming story, and that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Hilary Sons. Maybe saying heartbreaking isn't the right word, but I cried during this book, so it did hit me pretty hard. So in this book, you follow Aristotle, who is a young Mexican kid who doesn't really know his place in the world. He's not really sure who he is, but he is comfortable being on the outskirts, not really having really close companions. And then you also follow Dante, who kind of brings out the best in Ari. And it was so sweet. I can't with this book. I didn't know what to think when I went in. I just heard so much hype about it, and I was like, okay, I'm not really into contemporaries. They're not my favorite genre of books, but this one was so sweet. I can say I'm gonna reread this book probably like next year. I thought it was so sweet, and I love both the characters so much. It's been a long time since I've fallen in love with a character like this, and it was just so good. Read this dang book. So the next book I read was actually a reread for me, and I reread it on audiobook because I've never read an audiobook before, and I'd heard a lot of good things about them, and I wanted to kind of dip my toe in the water and do something that I've already read. So I read Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff through audiobook, and it was just as cool as reading it in person. I was a hard believer that you couldn't replicate what this book is in an audio format just because it's so interesting. It's told, I'm sure you guys have seen, like it's told in all these really cool ways, and there were just some things that I was dead set you couldn't replicate, and I think they did a really good job. I liked having actual character voices, and I feel like it really put a face to some of the characters that I had never had before just from reading it in a textual way. So it was really, really good. I do recommend this if it is your first audiobook, just like me, and if not, I mean, it was super duper good. It was very, very exciting, and I'm actually going to read another one once school starts back up and I'm actually driving again. I'm gonna read World War Z on audiobook because my dad won't stop talking about it. So I'm gonna read that one soon, and I'm super excited because this one set the bar so high. I'm excited. The next book I read was A Court of Mist and Fury by Miss Sarah J. Maas. This book was so good. It's the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I don't know what the actual name of the series is. I will have a review up for this probably very soon. I really liked it. Like, this one was better than the first one, and I was ranting and raving about the first one. The story is so good. I know some people love it, some people hate it, but if you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend doing so. And the last book I read this month was Wolf by Ryan Groudon. This is the first in what I think is a duology. I think there's only 2 books in this series. This book is very interesting because it's a historical retelling where the Axis powers win World War II, Hitler won, and the world is basically split up in Nazi Germany, like that whole area, and then there's also Japan has part of the world as well, and there's America, but America isn't really part of this story. So basically, you follow a young girl who wants to go into this motorcycle race that's an annual thing in this, German utopia, I don't know, this Hitler world. So she wants to win this motorcycle race in order to meet Hitler and kill him. Very interesting. I really enjoyed this book. I will say it's not practical at all. Like, it's definitely kind of fantastical in the ideas, but the story itself was really well done, and if you can accept that it's, this would never happen, and you can really tell that the author did put a lot of research into what a world would look like should the Axis powers have won World War II. So it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. There were some kind of crazy things, but I would recommend it. If this sounds appealing to you, pick it up. So that's everything I read in July. Now, I kind of slowed down in my reading at the end of the month. I wasn't reading a bunch, and I'm still not. I'm kind of in a weird place where I don't know if I'm in a reading slump because I am still picking up books. I'm just not super enthusiastic about it. I'm not dying to pick it up. So I really hope that changes in the coming month. But because of that, I only gave myself 4 books to read, and I hope that I get to all of them. I didn't get to all the ones that I wanted to read last month. So the first book I want to read this month is a given because I'm already in it. I'm already reading it, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've never read The Hobbit. I've never read Lord of the Rings, anything like that. And I figured this would be kind of a fun place to start because I've heard Lord of the Rings, that whole trilogy is way different than this, and I don't know. So I wanted to read this book for so long. I've seen all the movies, I enjoyed them. So I'm excited to read this. I really hope that it gets me back into the excitement of reading because that's been missing from my life for a little bit now. The second book I hope to read this month is The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. I read The Raven Boys a few months ago, I think I read it in June, and I loved it. I thought it was so cool, and I've been waiting to get to this. Haven't picked it up yet, but I know that if The Hobbit fails me, this is going to get me back into reading because I loved that story so much. I honestly don't really know how to describe this series. There's dead Welsh kings, there's some paranormal stuff. All I have to say is basically if you like Indiana Jones, I think you would like this series, or at least the first book, because that's all I've read. So I'm very excited to read this book, and I think it'll happen this month. The next book I want to read is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Now, I kind of forgot what this book is about. I'm sure there's witches in it, and I'm pretty sure there's like an old book that everyone's trying to find. It just sounded really cool. I heard the synopsis a little while back. It looks very beautiful. I've heard good things, and I really hope that I get to it this month. And the last book I'm hoping to get to this month is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I really hope that I finish this series off. This is the last book that's been out. I think that she's coming out with more books in this series, but I think the story ends here. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. But I really am hoping to get to this book because I'm loving the series so far. So yeah, those are the 4 books that I'm really hoping to get to this month. I'm hoping that, if I pick up my pace a little bit and get re-excited for books, that there will be more books. I really hope that you all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys thought about the books down below. Have you read any of the ones that I'm hoping to get to, or any of the ones that I already have read? If so, what did you think about them, or what are you planning to pick up this coming month? So yeah, that's all for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon in another video. Bye!